In this video I will be showing you the installation of Alpine. This is the virtual machine command I will be using. I will be recommending the use of Alpine specifically for virtual machine usage. When you are using a virtual machine, you generally don't want your virtual machine to be taking a lot of resources. And for that purpose, Alpine is really good because it is a very minimal operating system. It is really tiny. It is small. It doesn't use many resources at all. So, let's get to the installation process. The installer here is a terminal installation, but it is an installer program, so it is not a manual installation that something like ARX would have. This is very much an installer, and you can basically keep hitting enter like you would do on a Debian install, for example, and then it prompts you for your passwords and usernames. What do we have to use? Case sensitive. Anyway, the installer is as easy as basically hitting enter for the most part. So, Alpine. It is a really interesting operating system. It uses the Linux kernel, but it is not a GNU operating system. And like I said, it's very small, it's really tiny, it's a very minimal operating system. Like, it doesn't get much more minimal than something like Alpine. There may be some operating systems that are really small, but then you are basically cutting functionality away. And this is basically a very usable operating system. And it's really small. So that's really interesting. What I have done now on the installer is I had it find the correct mirror, and that took a while, but it's done now, so that's good. The installer is really easy. Basically just keep hitting enter for the most part. Yeah, I don't really care about those things. SPA. And here you want to select SUSE, unless you have some specific use cases why you would want to choose something else. Just choose SUSE. And here you have to make sure that you write yes or Y instead of the default no. As usual, it will of course delete all the content on the disk. So that's why it's defaulting to no. And the installer is really fast, look at that. Because it's so small, there's so little stuff to install. And that's pretty cool. So for virtual machines, this is basically perfect for having a minimal operating system. Let's see. The package manager here is APK, and I will do an APK update. Actually, first, let's go to etc. APK repositories, and I will uncomment this repository. Then I'll do an APK update again. Right, so that enables the community repository. Okay, so then what you want to do is, well, of course, if you want to have a terminal installation without any GUI, you're basically done now. You can just install whatever software you want. There's nothing you need to do, but I will be installing a graphical environment, and for that, Alpine actually, interestingly enough, provides a installer for desktop environments. There are a few options. If you want to install something else, you're gonna have to do it manually, but these few options that are available, you can do that with this command. and it gives you these few options: GNOME, Plasma, XFCE, and Mate. So if you want something else, you're gonna have to do that manually. But these are the options that are provided by default. I'll go with XFCE. And this is an installer for the desktop environment. It basically installs all the things that you would want to have with the desktop environment, and it does all that automatically. You can do it manually also if you want to. Then you can select your software choices more precisely. This also installs something like Firefox also. So if you don't want to have Firefox, then you would need to do the manual installation. Or you could uninstall it later, but whatever. This installs by default all the usual stuff. So that's pretty cool. You can do manual installations if you prefer that, or if you want to use some other desktop environment. I'll go with the easy option to just install that, because I'm fine with that stuff as it is. And because this is the automated process that I just run the setup desktop, it really does do everything. So you can basically just reboot the system, and it goes straight to the login manager. It basically makes it a user-friendly setup easily by default. And that's that. And now a graphical environment has been set up and successfully installed. Not only was that fast, but it's really minimal, and I'll show you some disk usage statistics here. It's really small, and that's with a desktop environment installed. Like, look at that, it's really fucking small. That doesn't take much space, that's small. Okay, so then I'll go to root, and I'll install htstop just to show you the memory usage and all that. Add htstop. And htstop has been added. And look at that, that's really small. That's really small. 237 megabytes of usage on the RAM. And that is very small. So if you want to have your virtual machines without using a lot of resources, that's very small. Yeah, you might have some trouble installing the Alpine on a desktop computer if you have NVIDIA graphics cards. So I hear. I haven't tested any of that myself or anything, and I'm new to this Alpine thing. So whatever. But yeah, Alpine seems to have some trouble with those sorts of things and whatever. So I'm not really going to recommend Alpine for installation as a general purpose desktop computer operating system. But you can do that if you have the proper hardware or whatever. You have to look that stuff up yourself. I'm not gonna recommend such things now, but for virtual machine use cases, this is basically pretty much perfect for the most part, I would say. There's not really much to it that's bad. It's really good. Yeah, if you want to do things on a virtual machine, then that's pretty good. But I'm not done quite just yet. I will be fixing one problem that there is. There is an issue with audio playback. For some reason the system fails to play audio, but that can be fixed. You can install Pipewire instead of Pulse Audio, so I will be doing that. APK del Pulse Audio, I believe was the name, yes. And then APK add pipe vire. Well, I think vire plumber might have been necessary. And I also add pipe vire pulse. I think that's what those might have been the names. Vire plumber. Did I write that wrong, or maybe did it have something like that? No. Is that the correct command? Does it also have the similar thing as the list on app? Let's see. List wire plumber, if I do something like this. yeah, it does work like apps does. There it is, very plumber. Oh no, I know I misspelled it, Bloomber, yeah. What a blunder. Yeah, yeah, I made a mistake there. It wasn't. It's a P, not a B. Well, okay, well that was a mistake. Okay, well, that's right. Yeah, now it works. And then I'm going to restart now. I think those should be enabled by default in the OpenRC. There's no need to make those manually start up. I think they should start just fine on their own. So let's see. Let's go play back some audio. Let's go to what would be a good example of audio playback? It should probably be some sort of a... Well, I could just play my own YouTube videos where I speak something, so that's good. No copyright issues or anything. Let's see, that's a good example of a audio playback. Now the audio should be playing back just fine if I play the video. You know what pisses me off? When these YouTuber types go around the internet and they talk about... Yeah, so what you heard there was of course the audio playback from this video. So, that works, audio works now. The audio, for some reason, it doesn't work with the Pulse audio. For some reason, I have no idea why. I don't know what's up with that. It just doesn't seem to work. Well, anyway, it works now. Pipeware works, that's good. I'm gonna show you the HTOP again. Now, one fascinating thing is you can see here just how high the usage goes by just opening Firefox. Yeah, that's a lot. So if you're using like a virtual machine, and especially if you have a low-spec computer, the host computer, that you don't have many resources to give, then having a heavy operating system in a virtual machine is a really bad idea because it's just gonna eat all the resources of the host computer, and that's just unfortunate. So it's better to have a small virtual machine. Yeah, actually, yeah, well, let's both show you this one more time. Yeah, those are some really small usages of resources. That's pretty cool. Yeah, Alpine Linux is interesting. I can recommend using it for virtual machines. Yes, it might have some other use cases out there in the world, but those are very specific, and it's not really my place to recommend it for anything else. But for virtual machines, yeah, good stuff. I'm just going to see how many programs there are running right now with the desktop environment enabled. Actually, show you just how many there are. Not that many. Considering that it's a full desktop environment here, XFCE. Very interesting. The memory usage is really small. With a full desktop environment, not many distros can go just as low as that. And this is an Unix-like operating system with all the Unix-like features that you would want, and all the software that works with an operating system that uses the Linux kernel, basically for the most part won't work here. But of course there are softwares that need more than just the Linux kernel to run. But in general, it's pretty usable, and whatever virtual machine use cases you might have, it's really good. Like if you wanna do some web browsing in some sketchy website or whatever, anything really like that, you could do it all on a virtual machine. I always go to weird websites with a virtual machine and all that. Why not? You know, you can just do it. This doesn't take much resources. It's really that small. It's really under 300 megabytes with a full desktop environment. And although XFCE is called a rather small desktop environment, it is still a fully featured desktop environment. This is not really a small desktop environment. It has all the functionality that a desktop environment would have. This XFCE is already, it is pretty good, and it's not really that small. Or it's actually more appropriate to call it like a medium weight environment or something like that. Yeah, more lightweight environment would be just window manager only or something like that. Those are the really small desktops. And if you want to have like a window manager, it's of course going to be way more smaller than this. This is right now currently using 261 megabytes of memory. If you want to have even smaller, you can use a window manager only. And that's perfectly reasonable to do. But for like a general purpose, like some user, some normal person who just wants to do some web browsing in a virtual machine, to add some security or test some software too. Yeah, if it runs on a Alpine, you can do some software testings and whatever you want to do on a virtual machine. Yeah, that's up to you. But if you want to use a virtual machine for virtual machine things, then this is a good distro I recommend for that purpose. Yeah, and that's that for this video. Yeah. Thanks for watching, like, share, subscribe. Until next video, bye.